All right, we're recording now.
Cool. Let me just hit that.
All yours, Rod.
Okay, thanks. Welcome, everybody. This is our Digital Services Forum biweekly meeting. My name is Rod Jardine. I'm a Director of Enterprise Architecture for the Americas. I look after the Fed, Med, SLED, the state, local, and education, and commercial business for Canada, US, and Latin America. I'm teammates with John Spirko, who you know, and we'll be also introducing a few other team members as well. I've been with ServiceNow for a little over 6 months. Background on me is 30 years in IT. I've been CIO, CTO, and a chief architect, and everything from startup to Fortune 6 companies. Most of my experience is in healthcare, about 21, 22 years in healthcare, but I've also spent time in retail, government, automotive, agriculture, industries, and education industries as well. So today what we wanted to do is, you can go to the next slide, John, is really talk about how we're evolving the digital services work group or the digital services forum into the digital services work group. We'll hear from Christine and Jeff, two executive sponsors on the forum. And then also John will move into further content that we already had scheduled. So we're just going to give you guys a brief little update on how we're doing the transformation for digital services from a work group into the forum. Next slide. So where were we and where are we at? As you can see, we started in June of 2018 with 2 education customers, and now we're supporting 200 with this forum. Anyways, we're supporting 205 customers in 30 different industries and in 65 regions. So tremendous growth in 4 years, largely due to Mr. Spirko. He's done an exceptional job, and I think hats off to John. I can't give him enough a reward and recognition for the work he's done. We're extremely happy with that, and we look forward to having him continue on with the rest of the team members on the Digital Services Forum. You can click through that if you want. Those are just a list of the industries that we have in the forum, and then also the split of the types of folks that are attending these. We'll call it the forum now going forward, but the past workshops. So it was mostly 70% IT operations. And then we had some architects and project managers and some CIO, CTOs as well join us. Next slide. So where are we going? The Digital Services Forum was really created because we wanted to share best practices around digital transformation. As you all know, often when you're implementing enterprise software projects, companies fail to get past stage 1 and stage 2. And stage 1, in my opinion, is just project inception, selecting the software, doing the vendor analysis, and the second stage is implementation. Now, we do know obviously there's successful software implementations out there, but it usually gets done at a fraction of the scope, fraction of the benefits, and a fraction of the functionality. So that's where we felt like bringing the work group into a forum could help share those best practices around digital transformation and really help companies and people who are maybe challenged with building out a digital transformation strategy and performing software selection, where we can help and guide you, and you can share best practices with some of your peers. So we're going to go to one more slide, John. Great. Just wanted to introduce some of the other key members. Charles Bartley, Rachel Trembetta, Jason Lascola, and John. I don't know, Charles, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself, and Rachel and Jason.
I think Charles might be off today. I don't know if Rachel and Jason are here.
Okay, well,
I don't
go
know
ahead.
We've got you spotlighted, but hello, my name is Rachel Trembetta. I'm a senior enterprise architect. I've been with ServiceNow for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was a customer, just like most of you, working for General Electric, and I've been on the platform for about 10 years. I've got industry experience in utilities, manufacturing, agriculture, federal, and retail are my main areas that I've spent the past 25, 30 years on. And I'm excited to be here with you guys. When CSDM first came out, I was one of the founding customers behind that. How can you plan, build, run. I use different terms at the time, but seeing everything that you guys have all done, it only makes us all stronger. So I'm looking forward to helping you guys continue on your journey.
Thanks, Rachel. Is Jason on?
I am, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Jason Lascola here, peer of Rachel's in the enterprise architecture organization at ServiceNow. Most of my careers have been in strategic outsourcing, so dealt with a lot of large digital transformations and integrations, leveraging ServiceNow. And yeah, looking forward to working with you, providing best practices, especially with some of the the platform governance capabilities, leveraging CSDM, and just providing that industry experience as well, and really helping our customers understand what they're going through from each other as well. So really excited, and thank you for joining.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
John, go ahead.
Hello, John Spirko. I'm on the team with Rachel and Jason, and I report to Rod. So I am on the emerging markets team as opposed to the West or the East enterprise.
Thanks, John. I just figured everyone knew you. Awesome. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So some of you may already noticed this. We have a lot of our videos, a lot of the meetings that we have, we record and we put those up on Google before, and now it's on YouTube. So you'll see a new playlist in the ServiceNow community area. And then also we have a new community forum underneath the umbrella of ServiceNow. And you'll see some upcoming bi-weekly events in that link as well. So John will be sending out the deck afterwards, and you can click on those links and get to the new content. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christine and Jeff, and go on to the next slide. And they're going to talk about how we are transforming the digital services workgroup into the digital services forum, what they're expecting, what their hopes are for the evolution, and then they'll take some questions and answers.
Thanks,
Christine.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, sure. I'll start for a few minutes and Jeff, just jump in. I'm Christine Ehrenberger. I'm here in Detroit. I run solution consulting for ServiceNow in the Americas, which includes our internal enterprise architect team, as well as the consultants that are out there helping our customers understand and how to realize value for their digital transformation. I'm excited about the expansion of this forum. I know we've really got a high concentration. We started out in medical and state and local government. Most of you came from that area, and the expansion is really important to us, partially because of how we've expanded as a company. Our rapid, I would say our crazy rapid growth, but our rapid growth that we've had over the past, for me, I've been with the company since 2019, but obviously well before that, the growth that we have in financial services, that we have in telco, that we have in manufacturing is just, in some cases, these industries are pulling us through because the demand for our product. We started out, if you, from a complexity perspective, I think our customers are dealing with, everything. We started out as this IT company and grew into all these other products. And even if I look over the past handful of years, our product set has grown with all kinds of things, even outside of employee experience, customer experience, but even most recently with, the vaccine management applications. We've gotten IT operations and AI ops enterprise. We've all these products that we've added every 6 months, frankly, and our customers are trying to make heads or tails of, what am I going to get the biggest impact from over time? And who's going to help me understand that? So not only the technical infrastructure underneath it, we've got all of the cool hyper automation, AI, machine learning, integration, RPA, all that exciting stuff that's underpinning all of these applications in the business. and they need you. We need you, and we need to be able to help you all understand how to make heads or tails and get the best value of that during your digital transformation. So I'm excited to see I'm excited to see this group expand so we can help you, and we can help you use our products and leverage the power of the products as fast as we've been able to deliver them to the market. So Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jeff Luby. I lead the enterprise architecture team here for ServiceNow, reporting up to Christine. And I'm just excited to be here. So thanks for having me. I think when I first started at ServiceNow, John and I had a one-on-one, and he told me about this group a couple of years ago, and I was just super excited about it. The things that I think make this group the best are both you and ServiceNow get benefits out of it. So there's a mutual benefit there. We have product managers come on, you provide feedback, as well as we talk about topics that are top of mind to you. So that's super important and valuable to both of us. The other thing I like, the way that John set this up, and we're hoping to continue this going forward, is the idea of just keeping it real. So there's not marketing or sales collateral being presented. It's talking about real issues and real things that are important to you as service owners or EAs or whatever your role is. So keeping it real is one of the things that we're going to keep going forward. And then lastly, not inundating this group with like product information specifically, but talking about topics, things that are important to you as you're a product owner or a platform owner that you can then take away and actually use that information. So those are the three things that John and I had been talking about in the past, and I want to continue going forward. As some of you heard earlier, the vision and sort of the goal for this new, this next step that we're trying to take is really around expanding, as Christine said, expanding the membership of this group. We, are looking at manufacturing and financial services and others so that we can just expand the reach and the value to other folks. We're also just trying to modernize, I think, the approach that we're taking and conform to a better approach based on the ServiceNow communities. So putting all of the recordings and everything and sending out the invites from a standardized sort of approach is important. And, the self-service nature of it as well as we start growing. And then lastly, I think expanding the leadership team that you saw earlier on the slides, such that we can provide even more value, more diverse speakers, different topics, and John doesn't have to carry the load each and every call, and we'll continue adding awesome speakers that are inspirational to you. So that's kind of what I see the future being, and I'll turn it back to John or Rod.
I think at this point, what we want to do is open it up for questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question, either in chat or come off mute and ask the question directly to either Christine or Jeff, now's the time.
John, there's one in the chat about engaging with our teams and an architect to look at their maturity model of where current state is with a customer and how we help them get that roadmap in the future based on maybe their industry or their product set. Do you want to answer maybe what's the best way you encourage them to engage?
Yeah, last time we talked, we talked about our LEAP program that we're running out of the EA group. And I guess from a high level, you started the whole EA group for a reason. And I think, and then the LEAP model is kind of Jeff's interpretation of that, right? That's it in action. So I was wondering, maybe you guys can speak to both those perspectives. Like what were the thoughts that went into the team that said, okay, we're going to build this EA team for the Americas?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. TMDPO is the person asking the question, but yeah, I would tell you, we do have a program, and our architects and strategists help our customers with that process, and it's an engagement we work with. Depending on, you would reach out to your sales rep, the person that's your account executive who has the relationship with you, and they'll schedule something for you based on, what the business needs and who's, what you're trying to accomplish. But it is an offering that we packaged up. So we created this this offering, if you will, or this engagement, because we were having so many of our customers, wanting that, requesting that kind of activity and having that kind of expertise. So we kind of have a little program. It starts with a design thinking type of workshop that helps you understand, like, where do you want to go as a business? What are your priorities and biggest problems? And then it puts value on the end of it of where should you financially is the biggest impact for where you should start and what steps you should take over. In some cases, a 3-year journey or longer. Jeff, do you have anything?
Yeah, and so I would just add to that. We've taken all the best practices, referring to LEAP, of all the architecture engagements that we've had across the Americas. We've tried to distill them down into certain patterns and methods that we can use in front of a customer and share with you, actually. So we undertook a lot of work last year and have created something called LEAP, which is Lean Enterprise Architecture for People. And through that process, we have standard workshops that we engage with customers on, standard deliverables, et cetera, that we can work with both your partner or with your IT staff to actually help implement ServiceNow and really get the best out of and the quickest value of the ServiceNow platform for your company. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what LEAP is and how we're rolling it out. And it's constantly evolving. It's just getting better and better.
We're trying to match that also to what's going on in each of your industries. So, and what's going on in the world today. So it is, when Jeff says it's changing, it depends on what is important. And like cybersecurity risks are like the #1 threat for CEOs right now. So we have that as part of the conversation. Or, we've mentioned the human health and human crisis that's been on in the world today. So this vaccine management or products might be a higher priority. So there's macro kind of crosswinds that are going on in the world today. Supply chain might be a hot one depending on the industry that you're in. So it does have a little bit of like an industry slant of what, from a maturity model, what might make more sense in your business based on what maybe competitors or others in your industry are uniquely looking at to move the needle with our platform.
Well, thanks. And there's a couple of questions on the Google Drive, and Rod mentioned that real quick earlier. All the content from this point on will go on the Digital Services Forum, which is the ServiceNow community. And we'll send out a link to that. There was a link in the bottom of the invite as well. And that forum is where we're going to be posting all our content from this point forward, instead of using the Google Drive like we had before. So the videos will go on YouTube, and then the content will go in the forum. All right. See if we have any other questions. There's some questions about digital service, and the digital service is more about just the services that we build and transform. And it's the fact that it has a digital transaction involved is what we mean by that. So a lot of what we talk about is modeling and delivering the services. That's a lot of the focus now, and especially transforming some of the services that you already have. So we'll see if there's any more questions in here.
There is one, John, about putting the historical data into the forum repository.
Yep. So there is some of it in there, and we talked amongst our steering committee, and we didn't want to dump everything in there at one time. So we'll be bringing certain pieces that are still relevant over to that repository, such as when UC Davis, they had a thing they shared a while back, and then the County of San Diego had a way that they defined a template. So we'll start bringing that over little by little. We did put all the videos are on the form already that we did this year. So everything we did since the beginning of 2022 is already on the form. All right. Any other questions while we have Christine and Jeff on?
Hi, John. This is Dan Wright, long time no talk.
Hey, Dan.
UC Davis, one of the originals in here. Can't say enough about what John has done in my 20 years in just various industries. The best vendor experience I've ever had has been this relationship with John. So kudos to you, John.
Thank you.
For everything. So we have our current catalog and we love our catalog and we get a lot of accolades for it, but we're trying to align with CSDM and we're having some issues when it comes to, while we have catalog items that are actionable with requests right on the spot there, we do have some content items that those services are fulfilled, maybe outside of ServiceNow with, vendor pages, or maybe there's multiple request forms for a certain service. So we have content items, and we're finding content items really don't play well with CSDM. And we're trying to figure out a way to present those items out of the box the best we can, but we're basically forced to still have, the request button or the, add the cart button when there's really nothing to add. And so we're looking for some, solutions. I posted my question kind of above, and I also posted in the forum as well, looking for as many, as much saturation with solutions and answers as we can get. So that's all I got.
Yeah, that might be a good whole topic for to present on one of the upcoming forums at the end, Dan.
Yeah.
So unless Christine or Jeff had anything to say on that, I think we just wait and tee that up and have a whole meeting around it.
We'll take whatever we can get. We appreciate it.
Right. Good deal. Rachel or Jason, did I miss any other questions on there?
Nope, I think you've got them all. And I'm really glad, Dan, that you spoke up, because that is a challenge that we do see with a lot of our customers that start in ITSM. How do you really take and leverage the power of CSDM? So I think that would be, maybe the end of July when we have, that'll give us time to maybe work with you, Dan, on what your requirement is, do a little bit of homework on our side, and then share that with everybody else.
That would be fantastic. Our entire team would appreciate that.
And I think we're even with Anita, we're even teed up for an engagement with you. I just saw a note from Ed earlier this week.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah, so we'll be out there.
We have a hand up from Jeffrey.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jeff Manville. I'm the ServiceNow team lead at Duke Health. I was wondering if you guys have investigated kind of anything around service-based costing for digital services. We've been doing service-based costing at Duke Health for a while now, and I've just haven't really found any ways that really replicate a truly, though I kind of hate saying it, an Amazon experience, and something that's really effective in translating customer need and customer dollars into like effective IT organization. Service-based costing seems to be custom, haphazard, and kind of brute forced. It's not like our credit cards where we can look every day, any hour, to see kind of where we're spending money and what we're spending money on.
Hey, Jeffrey, does your finance team do TBM finance modeling?
I think we use Aptio as a tool for financial modeling and do kind of annual chargeback. So I'm just kind of, we don't use TBM today, I think.
Okay. And I was just asking, there's many different ones. We can set up the system to be able to do that with our configuration management database. If you have the services there, and then you can have all the infrastructure there. And then from a project perspective, if you're using SPM, you can start to put the project accounting in there with labor dollars, hardware, and software, and then be able to roll that all up to your digital portfolios.
But that's more for like capital projects, right? Not operational, is it for, so I'm sorry.
You can do it for operational as well. If you think about it, you have an O&M. let's say you've got someone managing all your servers. You've got a project that you have to pay them annually on. So if you track that, that can roll up to your total cost to serve.
Yeah, there's another answer too. We did a meeting on this last year on specifically around financial modeling on the services. And we have a special vendor because this is almost like another language when you get in to do this really complex financial modeling. And they're called Proven Optics. You might want to look them up on the store, but that seems to be the default when there's, when there's some serious inquiries about that, because that's like a whole different domain with all the possibilities and the sharing of costs across applications and things like that. But you can start with that recording. And actually, I have that financial modeling on as one of our topics at the end that we're going to prioritize. So if that comes up again, we could probably rerun something like we did a year and a half ago and see where we are on that. I don't know if anybody in the audience might be doing that today. Is anybody doing financial modeling today? I know Solissa was doing a little bit of that.
We had started to do that when I was working with USCIS, and we've got Craig on the phone from there. It's just not gotten that far yet, because they do domain-driven development and want to make sure the business and IT are working together, and we could align everything to a cost center.
Cool. All right. Any other questions while we have Christine and Jeff? I don't want to hold them too long. Coming at it from the executive side. So the technical questions are great. We're going to have at the end, we're going to have a good section on that to where we line up some of the next few months. But we'll
I guess what I would say, if there's no more questions, we're 100% behind the expansion of this. All of you that have been part of this community for some time have so much to offer to customers outside of the industries that you've been part of, and we're super grateful for you being force multipliers for us and for our customers, other customers that are going to continue to join as we expand. And to Jeff's point about John kind of carrying the load for this, I've doubled the size of my architect team in just the past year because of how important this role is and the Johns of the world. So I do think you're going to see all kinds of different business problems and challenges and things that we can all learn from on this journey together as we contribute to this community. So the world is changing out there, and you're just as much a part of the learning community and building the talent and helping people navigate ServiceNow. So we're very grateful for your contributions and the contributions you're going to have yet to come with the expansion of this program.
And I'll just add a little bit to that too. I echo Christine's comments there, 110%, support from me for this program. But, I think, like I mentioned before, just the benefits that we both get out of it are super important. And also, as we look at the enterprise architecture role long-term, that should be a role that any company has, that is a specific role that says we need a ServiceNow enterprise architect to, roll out new applications on the platform, new workflows, et cetera, as they integrate with the rest of IT. So I think, I'm super excited about where this can go. There's a lot of other stuff we could talk about Knowledge 23 and trying to get this group together in a different setting, but more on that to come. But anyways, I just want to say thank you as well. And thank you, John, for carrying the load so far. I think 4 years maybe. And welcome to Rachel and Jason and Charles to this program as well.
Thank you both very much for letting us expand it and grow it and have the time to work on it. We really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
All right. And I think we're clear on questions, Christine and Jeff. So thanks again. We'll send any out over if we get any extras.
Sounds good. I'm actually going to stick around just because I want to hear the conversation.
All right. Now we're gonna geek out a little bit for you. All right. So what I wanted to do today is in this section is go down into the CSDM workshop. And with the CSDM workshop, we did this probably 2.5 years ago with this group where we had about 80 of us and we split up into 6 teams. And then we got, I think, 20 instances that we shared. And then we took those instances and we went ahead and we modeled we created a service from scratch so that everybody can see how to do it. And it wasn't meant to say, okay, we're going to create this monstrous service with all the microservices and technical services, just really basic core service so that we could go ahead and represent what the CSDM does to our organization. So that's what I want to take you through next is I'm going to give you that template as one of our deliverables. And I'm going to send a link out after this meeting with that in there. So you can run this yourselves, or alternatively, like Jeff talked about the LEAP engagement before, this is one of our LEAP deliverables. So if you have an architect come in, they can run this workshop with you. So I'm going to switch over to the deck that I'm going to give you so that you'll have some expectations on what that looks like. And so we start out with this template. And the template is going to, well, this is the home screen of the template. We have what we'll do in the beginning is really try to talk people off of the cliff that CSDM is this hard, confusing thing, right? Because you're already doing everything the CSDM helps you do, but you're not doing it explicitly. In other words, there's not process around everything. So if you look at let's take all the boxes and lines that confuses everybody, and let's just take those out for a minute and just look at these domains. Right, so if you look at the domains and you can explain this carefully, what we're trying to do, it helps when you go into the next level. So in the design domain, right, the organization expresses the needs to support some type of consumer, whether it's customers or employees. There's this need expressed. For those architects on, this could be a capability. And in order to meet those needs, you're going to buy apps, right? You're going to build apps, whatever it is. Sometimes you're building new ones if it's core to your business. Like I was on with an insurance company the other day. Their core business is selling insurance. So they build an app to sell insurance. And that's done all the time, right? Every organization needs capabilities and they buy apps and build apps to support those. And the question earlier, like, what is a digital services? This is what I'm talking about here, is we're working our way towards a digital service. Now, after they buy those applications or build them, right, they need to, in order to become useful, they have to be configured or built, right? So this is the domain where, yep, we decided we need something, we're going to build it or we're going to buy it, one or the other. And that happens again and again and again, right? It's not, this is the same process IT is doing all the time. Now, the next one, in order to buy or build something, right, we need an environment. We have to be able to run it. Buying an application has no value until you can run it. Like even ServiceNow, when you buy ServiceNow, it isn't immediately valuable to the organization because what you still have to do is you still have to configure your single sign-on. And there might be some other things you have to do to meet security concerns. So this operationalizing of it is another domain, another team. And you can see what the model's doing is it's putting all the pieces together and bringing all these people together for things you're already doing, right? Now, the last part is really where we want to get to. You bought these apps, you bought them for a reason, you built them, you configured them, you did all this work, you're standing it up on infrastructure that you're paying for. How do you present that result? And a lot of people, this is where they fail right here. And even some of what Dan was talking about earlier, how do we express that in the catalog and how do we connect that to the right models? So there's even that underlying configuration piece that you're trying to do. And so you're trying to put that back and you're trying to put it back in a way that's really easy to use for those end users, but it's also measurable, right? So you're getting the information from the end users and then you want that quantitative information as well. So that's how I explain the model. And again, this is the workshop reason is for you to go into your organization and be able to explain this to a team. We can go into more detail here about what all the components are, but basically these are the capabilities you need. These are the apps you're buying. So now we're putting them in lists. And it's not scary. These are rows in a table, right? A lot of people get all freaked out by all the lines and the boxes. And that's the big thing we want to stay away from. So once you have an application in there, I can start scheduling work against the app so that I can say, okay, we're going to make that app ready in our domain. And these are all the objects that put all those things together. Now, what we're going to do in the workshop is we're going to take you through just the business part, the business of IT, and show you how the common service data model supports the business of IT. Now, what I do in this section is I really focus on this part, because a lot of this is getting your servers, your network gear, your applications and databases. This is getting all of those listed down here. That's your data center stuff. What we're talking about here is the business part. So this part of the CMDB is what we're really going to talk about today. And that helps you see the business value of the model that we're using. Now, what we do here is I'm going to run this in our digital services forum instance. I'm going to show you some of the pieces that are in there that you can use during your workshop. And then that'll be useful in slides 5 through 7. So on the instructions here, you'll have the links to the pieces that we're going to use. Now, the first thing I do once they have the general understanding, what you want to take them through now, because sometimes this is people seeing for the first time, they're seeing the common service data model. So what we do now is we start putting real stuff in the design. So the business capability, and this is a workshop I just did with one of our customers. And this is just a little tip. If you're using our central instance, you're going to want to put some type of initial in front of it, just so you don't hit a duplicate problem. But what they needed to do here, this is a state customer, they need to manage eligibility. In order to manage eligibility, they have an application, and that's the application name. Right, so they're building this application with a team of developers, and then that application is being run on a technology stack, which is represented here. So we call this would be prod. Now, if I had, let's say I had to run this in a New York data center and then an LA data center, what I would have is I would have 2 of these. I would have ND space prod New York, ND space prod Los Angeles, for example. You can also represent your other environments in here, such as your dev environment. But right now, we're just going to represent one prod technology stack, right? And this is where all the servers and the switches, they all bubble up to this. So that's saying that there's some team responsible for making sure this application is running. And that's basically what this is. That's the operational piece. Okay, now what I do is I take this thing that this team built, and we're now running it. And now I have to squeeze the offerings. What am I offering here? So providing heat assistance and determining eligibility are 2 of the offerings that I would have. And these would tie back to the catalog items. If you're offering these in your service catalog, this is where it ties back. And that's basically the model that we're building here, right? So this is a copy of this model. We're starting to build out all these pieces. And what I do in the workshop is I just go to the business service level. So the offerings are basically extensions of the service itself. Right? So the service is basically a roll up of these individual offerings that you're going to let people use out of the eligibility services. Now, what we actually do is we tie all the way back, right? This ties back to the capability. So it kind of goes full circle. This is what we need. Goes through all this stuff. We buy stuff, we operationalize it. This is what you get, right? The service and the offerings. So that gives them a way to think about the common service data model, but now it's in your terms. It's your application. It's your capability. So you're expressing this. And I didn't even pick this before we did the workshop. I just got on the call and said, hey, what's a real popular application? And we start there. And then why did you buy that app? Well, we needed to manage eligibility. That's the conversation we have in the workshop. Are you running that in one data center? Are you running that in 2 data centers? Oh, we just have 1 data center for it today. Okay, well, let's put that down there. If it's 2, I copy this and put it in another one. Okay, in order to build this template, what you can do is you can log on to our central instance, and that central instance has Designer on there, right? So this is a product, a third-party product, and we're using that third-party product to go ahead and build out that instance. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick. So once you're logged on to the digital service workgroup instance, if I go to all, and I go to, inside all, you can, if you don't have it in your favorite already, you can search for Designer. And what Designer does, it'll pull it up in a different tab. and it'll let you do that Visio type of design with the people. Okay, so I have this Visio pane now. I could drag and drop ServiceNow stuff onto it if I wanted to. But what I did is for our work group, I built a template that you can use. So if you're in this instance, you can go into this folder and you can say, let's go ahead into the CSDM workshop that we're doing today. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this template. Now with the template, I give you some background colors. And what you can do is you can say, I want to go ahead and clone this template. So I can clone it from these little 3 dots up here. And then what that clone will let you do is go ahead and work on that template so that you can create your own objects in there. Right? So it's a bunch of empty objects with the CSDM. And then what you're able to do is drag and drop those templates too, so that you can go ahead and I'll show you real quick in Designer here, so that you can go ahead and create the relationships. So what you're doing is you're painting a picture, but what you're able to do later is actually import that picture from Designer. You can import that into the CMDB. Okay, so I don't have a lot of time today, but like I said, if you want to do this yourself, you'll be able to do it on this instance. And if you want to call in your architect or your solution consultant, they can both help you walk through this workshop too, maybe even do one for you. I don't know why we're not loading today. I just upgraded this before we got on to 5.4. So I might have to do something after the upgrade. But what I'll do is I'll show you the part. So once we get this, and then in Designer, what you can do is you can go import. And then once you import it, what you can do is you can say, okay, now I'm taking it from the diagram and I'm going to put it inside of the database. Right, so what we did is I went off of that diagram I created in InSpy and I said commit, and I committed all those objects. And what it did is it built the heat assistance offering, the terminalizability offering. It built all these things in my CMDB. So I was able to go on that and look at the model, but it also built all the relationships. So these are relationships that all of our products work off of. So if you look at an application service, the application service can go on to, the application service is required, right? So it's these offerings depend on that application service running. So there's a dependency here. And so all of those you'd be able to demo that right from that instance by pulling up that either the application or the service offering itself. Let's see if I have time to do that. But the next piece we want to go here is once we build the service, so we built it on a picture, we imported it into the database, we showed this data model that can be used for troubleshooting. The next thing we want to do is show what it looks like inside of digital portfolio. So if you go on our digital portfolio on our instance and you go under state and local services, you'll see ND eligibility up here. So this is what I just built. So now this is the final piece that not only shows the troubleshooting tree that we looked at before, but now you can go ahead and represent that service and have all of the metrics, the key performance indicators for that service individually, but not only individually, it bubbles up to the whole portfolio. So I can look at supporting services, and there's this accountability that we establish here using the common service data model, because now it's going to say there's somebody responsible for supporting services and all the services in it. There's somebody directly responsible for ND eligibility, which may or may not be the same group of people or the same leader. And then there's somebody responsible for all the digital services that we're creating for our organization. So up here, those metrics bubble all the way up just because you built the model. You took the time to build the model. So you get all this measurement and all this information about these services to this solution owner, we call them, right? The people that said in the beginning, why do I need eligibility? So that's the workshop, right? Is giving people visibility to those 3 perspectives: the design perspective, basically the operational perspective, and then the offering perspective, where you can actually see the people that are using it, whether they like it or not, right? And all those 3 perspectives are what that CSDM design really does for you. Right, any questions on that so far on the template? after Jason ran last week, Jason talked about Leap, and this is one of the offerings we went into. And I said, okay, that offering in Leap, it'd be really cool if we can say, let's go ahead and get the solution consultants to use it. And then I said, why don't we just give it right to the customers? Like there's some of you on the phone today, some of you on our conference that I know can do this today. You're already talking at these levels. It's just a structured way to have the conversation. Some of them may be really detailed because people already know about CSDM. Some of them might be just that intro. Now, the important piece is not to stop here. Right? We want to keep the conversation going now that we have these models. And we know the models are used by operations, the models are used by the business, the solution owners, and the models are also used by the architects, the designers of the service and of the capabilities. So how do we keep the conversation going? I have a couple areas. I just jotted these down, and these are actually, when we did our workshop a year and a half ago, these are a lot of the things that flushed out. What's the value that we get from doing this? The obvious one is mean time to recovery. Like if you could pull that up and you could say, okay, here's the ND design service or the ND eligibility service, and then here's all the servers and network gear, everything attached to it, right? The model guides the recovery efforts when something goes wrong with the underlying server, right? So you can really click on it and come in from the service that people complained about, and then it shows you everything underneath. You can assess the change impact, right? Because we're going to patch this application down here. Well, who's dependent on that application? Well, I have 4 different service offerings that are dependent on that. So I have to make sure that I know that we're going to be in a change window for that service. Security and access can be all the security pieces, including the risk mitigation, could be standardized. And so these are all the technical benefits that can help you, basically conversation starters, right? Because you can go into detail on any one of these. Now, the other part is really the business value, right? So the big business value here is in that domain where I said, I'm giving you what you asked for. I'm giving you what you need. I'm giving you that capability. That's where you establish all your service level agreements. That's where your contractual piece goes. That's where you support, somebody asked earlier, that's where we want to see the financial modeling. I don't want a financial model of a bunch of servers, tell you how much servers cost to maintain. What I want a financial model is the services that we're delivering to the business, and then show the value on those. And that's where a lot of people want to get to. So that financial model piece is really important. Data-driven decision-making, right? Because you have indicators on these, we're measuring something. And a big complaint I get here when I go to a lot of customers is everybody's measuring something. And that's a big part of the problem. There's no standard way to measure the value of a service because everybody has their own metrics. And if you have 10 different analytic tools and reports and people doing pivot tables and spreadsheets, there's nothing that really gives you a basis for how is it doing, what's the core of that doing? And then you could add the other stuff on, your special metrics, but there should be things that we could baseline the service on. So this is really where you even pick up on the service. What are your candidates for automation? Where am I applying AI and different things like that to do my transformation? You need a baseline for that, or you're just kind of going at it with no guiding light, right? So all of that comes from starting with that basic model and bringing all those people together, right? So that everybody is really working on delivering that service, that core service that we need to give back to the business. Right, so we want to wrap up here too. And what I usually do in the workshop is I get people just to give me notes. Like, what did you think about the models? We did an example. Did that make sense to you? Is there things you'd like to see? Like last week, we were on a call and they really were big on microservices, right? How does a microservice attach to that? And so all of these things about what caught your eye in those follow-on conversations. And then that's kind of the wrap up of the workshop. I usually get through these in 90 minutes. So if you want to try to target 90 minutes for the first one, that's all you could basically do is you have to stick to the basics for 90 minutes and you can get through it. But it's a really good conversation, a really good way to get people's heads spinning around, why are we doing this? And it's not just to fix problems faster, like a lot of people think. All right, I have time for a few questions and I want to switch over. Anybody have questions?
I have a question for you, John, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We're faced pretty much with the challenge that you just described. We do have what we call service framework model, and within that we have domains, financial, innovation, operational, risk, and so on and so forth. So some of those KPIs are similar across the organization, but when it comes to operational, there's definitely a big variety. Short of creating two different dashboards where people have, well, here's your set of KPI that is consistent across across the enterprise, you see the information here, versus, okay, now we have to create a whole other set of dashboards for you for your other set of KPIs. Is there a thought that, there's something maybe a little bit more modular or a mechanism by which we can import we don't need to try to calculate every single KPI, but at a very minimum, try to showcase the output, the final numbers of some of the objectives or the KPIs that some of these teams are trying to derive that are more service specific.
So have you looked at DPM yet?
We're on our journey to implement the APM, including technology portfolio management.
Okay, this DPM is something that you have already. You just have to get it from the store. And that's really the big goal around DPM. So what you're able to do is you're able to say, I have this core set of metrics for my entire portfolio. And what it does, it'll every time you put a new service in, it'll just bubble those metrics up. Or what you can do is I can go down to an individual service and edit like ND eligibility. And I'd be able to, I'm trying to click on a PowerPoint, but I'd be able to go to that service and put a specific KPI on it that I could see here. Or I'd be able to go up to the folder and put a specific KPI here that would bubble down to the offerings. So what it's meant to do is exactly what you said, is you can very specific or very, for the whole portfolio.
You mean the actual, just the KPI number. So let's say they have something that they measure completely outside of ServiceNow. The data is not even in ServiceNow. I can't calculate it using data in ServiceNow. So just the number itself is something that we
I
could
see what you're saying.
input. Yeah.
You'd have to put that into a PA metric in order to see it up here. I don't think we can put just a number in here yet. So we'd have to get it into a ServiceNow metric in order to visualize it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like long term. Sorry, I thought you were talking about TPM as opposed to DPM. So digital portfolio management, we haven't played around with yet, but it would be is definitely on our roadmap, because we've developed capabilities outside of ServiceNow to try to bring these dashboards to life. So now that we're thinking about, well, how do we move this over? We have the same problem. 50% of information is coming from ServiceNow, but 50% of KPIs are calculated, by these teams that are very unique to their own areas. And I don't want to add that much customization, but I do want to be able to just show them their final scores.
Yeah. I think if you're going to be using a lot of the metrics in ServiceNow, we can do those mashups in here, but you'd have to get it into that PA metric in order to make that work. So once you do it once, it's probably pretty easy to import any metric into there. We're doing that in our CIO dashboards as well. We just released that on the store. And the CIO dashboards, it's probably about 50% custom metric data that either gets from other systems or it's just, hard coded in.
Yeah, very interested in that one.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to end the poll here. I'm going to go. Okay, we got both questions filled out. So if you can just finish the poll so that we can see where the interest lies, that'll give us a good idea. And what I want to do is, like I said, I'm going to send you this deck so you'll have the template and you'll have that other piece so that you can have these conversations. But I want to just use the last few minutes to go over that piece.
John, I have a question.
Sure.
So on the business side, you mentioned about how to optimize the resource allocation. In ServiceNow, where do we get the data to start looking how the resource being allocated and where they spend their time, as you mentioned on the slide?
The resource allocation in the DPM slide?
Yeah. You have the business side and you have the technical slide.
Mhm. Oh, okay. So the resource allocation, a lot of times that's going to bubble up from the cost model, or you can just bubble that up as a metric. That comes out of our SPM offering.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And that there's actually a resource management capability underneath SPM. And
Thank you,
basically what
John.
you're doing, you're welcome. Basically there's cost plans and then there's resource plans in project planning, but you can also do operational resource planning as well with that capability.
I see, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so with this new forum change, we're going to look at a little bit of a different structure. And what we need is some people to support this part. So what we will do, and I talked to Charles and Jason and Rachel about this too, and this is actually Rod's idea. So I really like the fact that we try to divide it up, and it doesn't have to be 20, 20, 20, but we want to try to get it pretty close. If you still need a whole hour for the meeting, like Dan, for example, if you came in and we tore apart your problem next week, we would have this real world scenario is, hey, this is what we're struggling with, connecting models to catalog items. The forum business will just be like we did today. We'll talk about any changes or what's going on in the community. And then we'll do an end result like this. This is back to forum business because we need new content. And then what we'll do on the ServiceNow side is if we have that scenario, we'll try to do something complementary. It may be related, it may not be. If we have something specific that we think is top of mind that a lot of customers, we'll bring that to the meeting. But what we really need is people here. So we want to try to get this teed up a little bit, and I'm going to put a list on the next meetings. But I know Rachel, you had something for next meeting. I don't know if you're ready here, but as you guys get together, and especially if it's a team, like one ServiceNow person is going to chat and then one customer is going to chat. That's what we really want to get. So if anybody has any ideas that they want to really go ahead and put up in this this committee, kind of like Dan talked about today, please send them my way. And or now you have Jason and Rachel and Charles as well that you can reach out to in your own regions. So please get us all the ideas you can so that we make sure we get the right content on here. I have some good ideas today that we'll set something up for next time based on the polls. But we really, anybody have any ideas?
And John, are we still bi-weekly on this?
We are, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with vacations in our group, it's probably best if we're not next.
Okay.
I'll just say that. So
tomorrow, Dan, we're gonna kick you guys off.
Yeah. Right on.
All right. Anybody else have anything that's like top of mind that they think would be a good format here for, to get help from the forum? Okay, we'll start structuring things. I'll start putting ideas on here when we come to the end, but we'll use the last 5 minutes just to capture that information. All right. Any other questions I can answer for anybody? I haven't been following the chat that well. So if you put something in chat, now's a good time to chime in.
John, in the CSDM Workshop document, there are two approaches that are suggested. One is the application-centric and the service-centric. How to decide which approach is the right for the environment, the current environment?
So whether you mean inside the DPM, is that what you're referring to?
Not inside the DPM, in the CSDM framework.
Mm-hmm.
There was a process workshop or where it suggested there are two approaches we can march towards CSDM. One is the application service focused and is the service focused. So just want to understand how to trade, how to decide which is the best approach, on what are the different parameters on which we decide on that approach.
So do you have the CSDM white paper?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, in that they suggest two different ways, and they give the crawl, walk, run, fly approaches from both sides of that. They used to just say, start with your business apps, because that's an easy thing to get because you have a list of POs somewhere. But now there's kind of two frames of thought, like top down coming from the services, and then and then the business app one, which was originally suggested. But there was a change in the CSDM paper, I think in CSDM 3.0, where they offered different reasons for both approaches in there.
Is there any hybrid approach where it stands both? Because when we look at from a business point of view, they say that, okay, let's start with the service focused. But when we look at from a technology focus, they say, hey, we need a quick value realization in the change and the instant outage resolution. So let's look at the application focus. So is there any intermediate path where we can start with the hybrid approach?
Oh, definitely. That's mostly what we see. We'll see people coming at it from both sides, depending on the familiarity of the people that you're interacting with. And then there's kind of the string across the river approach. Let's just build one, right, from end to end and start with that, instead of saying, let's do all our apps and then all our services. So most of the time we do see a handful of approaches happening at the same time.
Yeah, and I would just add that a lot of times they'll meet in the middle. So the application folks will define apps, the service folks will define services, and they do meet in the middle with application services. No pun intended.
What is that guy now, man? Jeez, you think he wrote it? Right, I got to jump off for another call. So thank you everybody for your time today. Appreciate it. And do get me those things over if you want to be featured in one of these and bring your problem up to everybody. Let's definitely talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated.